Jail card. That's the worst card. Alright, people. I gotta swap some screens around. How was your extended weekend?
Yay!
Sad it's over, but yay. That's often how it goes. Alright. Well, over my extended weekend / discovery day, one thing that we accomplished is cutting down those stinking trees that I was talking about. You cannot eat that. Maybe after I share my discovery day with my advisory group. I have a lot of. Yeah, well, a lot of us end up doing something for discovery day. So through using a lot of math and some climbing equipment that I have, luckily because I'm a climber, we brought down both of those trees. Nobody got hurt. Everything went well. So yeah, that was my discovery day, is following some trees, which is actually either called falling or fouling. I forget what it is. Big note, please fill in your plan book. I have some students choosing not to do this, and it is biting you in the butt hard, especially now that it's Q2. So I'm not, like, if you come to me and you're like, hey, what are you collecting tomorrow? I'm going to say 311 to 322. And if you say, oh, what were those? I'm going to say tough. I'm going to say check your plan book. Check what questions, like check the header that should have been on the homework. I am no longer going to repeat myself when it is absolutely, like, on you that you should know this. You had plenty of time. I am right now just killing time, waiting for people to get set and make sure that your plan books are filled in. So you always have ample time. Hear me when I say this. I am no longer repeating myself. Now it'll go up on that board, but once it's a week old, like 311, that's from last week, right? So if you didn't write it down last week, and if you didn't do it, like, yeah, that makes me nervous. But we're collecting those for, because they were Tuesday through Friday, or actually the week before, so they're like 2 weeks old. You got a lot of time to do those. So they should be done. And then today's homework 323 will probably get collected either when we do the mastery or end of this week, early next week. So there's a pen off. Forgot that. Anyone want to read? Don't feel like reading for us this morning? No readers. Ava, go ahead and read the paragraph and then the questions there.
Okay.
Here, I'll make it a bit bigger for you. I don't know if you're like me, but that's still a little bit small.
In this lesson, you will work with your team to continue thinking about what happens when you remove positive and negative tiles from a collection of tiles representing a number. You extend your thinking to find ways of making your calculations more efficient when the same number of tiles are removed multiple times. Consider these questions as you work today. Do I keep reading? Okay. Is there a more efficient way to do this? How do these ideas compare with what we learned about adding and multiplying integers in chapter 2?
Thank you very much. So, I used to say, and I have corrected myself since then, that mathematicians are lazy. And that is not at all true, because lazy is like, I don't want to do work, so I just sit here and do nothing, or I just sit here and watch YouTube. Efficiency, can anyone describe efficiency? What it means to be efficient? Okay, a quicker way. Yes, speed might come into it. Yeah, staying focused probably comes into it. Efficiency really is accomplishing the same task or a better result with less effort put in, right? Not no effort. I can't just sit here and do nothing. We want to find the best, the easiest, the least amount of effort way to solve these problems. So, when we look at these different expressions today, we're going to ask ourselves and our teams, like, what's an efficient way to do this? You're still going to have work to do, but what's the easiest way to make this happen? So, you and your teams to look at these. Now, we do get into some partials, right? We got decimals and fractions and things like that involved now. If you would like algebra tiles, we got a box of them over here. We got a box all set over here. So if you want to come and grab these, you may. If you need to like help develop an argument. What I want you guys doing with the next like 3 or 4 minutes, maybe a little bit longer because we have a few here. Write down the original, right? Always start with the original. Then, as a group, you're deciding, is there a more efficient way to talk about this or to do it? And then figure out the result. So we are simplifying these expressions. So if I get you guys started, let's do A together. So go ahead and put an A on your paper. Apparently, my smartboard is slightly off this morning. Okay, it doesn't want to let me change. So you would write down -1 minus -6.5. I start with 1 negative. And then I'm being asked to take away 6.5 negatives. Hey, Adrian, are you going to join us with class today at any point? You should have graph paper out. You should have a header on it. You should have a pencil out. Like, come on, man. Not starting quarter 2 on the best foot right now. What's a more efficient way to do this? Because technically I can't, quote unquote, I can't do what it's asking me to do. I don't have 6.5 negatives that I can remove from this situation. A more efficient way.
You could, so subtract what you can subtract and then add it.
We could. You're right, we could, but again, efficient, we want to do the best thing possible. Instead of subtracting what I can and then flipping it to addition, let's just change this, taking away negatives, to adding a positive. Because addition's easier to deal with. So that's how we're going to make it easier. And then we can figure out that our answer, well, good guy, bad guy, right? When we're adding, we can just think about the battle. So we end up with a positive 5.5. And I need to calibrate my smartboard. So again, I'm like kind of over repeating myself. So if you don't have a book out right now, and I flip the screen for calibration and you can't see the problems, tough, that's on you. On the screen, it said to get out a math book. So every group, I've said this, probably every day that we meet, should have 2 books. You can share it with the person sitting next to you, but every group should have 2 books. I should not have to continue asking for that. You are doing them together, so you can talk through everything as you go if you want. Or you can solve them and then talk with your partners. Paper should have a header on it that we're today in 323. That's like as soon as you come in, you know what we're doing. What can I do to make number 2 easier? Minus a negative again. I don't have any negatives to take away. Eva, what's it become? Yeah, we add a positive. So I've heard a couple people say this and it makes me nervous. The answer is not going to be 0. If we change it to make it easier, it turns into just addition of a positive. Now we've been off of math for like a week, especially those of us that went to Stone Lab and weren't even at school. Sorry, Stone Lab people, you did miss some fun couple days playing games. Yeah, we didn't do math while you were gone.
Well, Max was the only one that was really fun.
Well, cheers to that. Because math is the only thing I control. So I would say I'm sorry about the other things not being fun, but whatever.
It's kind of normal class.
We got to watch a video that we can dance to.
Yeah.
are we doing? 1 minute, 2 minute? What do you need? To be done. You're doing all of these. You're not waiting for me. You are doing all of these. Do you need to go to do some jumping jacks? Some of us need help waking up. You can if you need. Sometimes I get the whole class to do it. We're really struggling to wake up. My advice would be work these vertically. Once you write the original, work it vertically to solve. There we go.
There you go, I'm done.
Yeah, wait, what is this?
How to do it. I'm so
You just write down the answer? No. For C? So we have 12 and a half, right? So imagine like if this is money, or make it some situation that makes sense. You have $12.50. What you want to buy is $22.50. Do you have enough money?
No.
How much are you short? So your answer is going to be -10, but it's all how we show it. Since we can't technically do the subtraction, technically, we could do addition of a negative.
But how would that work?
I'm going to do it. So here in B, you should have ended up with 4.4. If your group did not, you might check in with each other and see why. C, as I was just talking to Ava, I'm going to make this decimal off the get-go. Just because sometimes fractions are better, sometimes decimals are better. I think about this like money. $12.50 is what I have in my pocket. The thing I want to buy and spend my money on is $22.50. I do not have enough. But I can think about it as adding the negative, adding that debt, or adding that purchase that will lower my amount. Now remember, we talked about credit cards, debit cards, those things where I don't have to have all the money available. Let's say I had my debit card, right, where I have money on it. $12.50 on my debit card. I swipe it for a $22.50 purchase. Do I still have money left on my debit card? No, and it goes into the negative. How far? $10, right? I am short $10 on this purchase price. Or once I set it up as a dip, sorry, this should have been negative. If somebody had caught me on that, you could have gotten a piece of candy. If I change it to addition of a negative instead of minus, I keep the minus, but it becomes negative. They battle. The bad guy's stronger, right? Watched Ant-Man and Wasp last night. Pretty good flick. I do say so. I like Paul Rudd. He's a good actor.
How was it?
It's good. D, -100. Can anyone talk me through this one? -100 minus -98. That 8 is not right. Can't be Eva again. Otherwise, I'm going to have to start paying her. I've already talked to Brendan once, too. What? Once. I didn't say I'm not going to call any, but I'm looking for any other volunteers. New week, new shuffle. Am I? What's your probability? Ooh, I like that question. Madison, can we do what it's asking us to do here? -100, take away -98.
Wait, hold on, let me read that.
Hey, talk with Madison for a second. So Madison, what are you thinking? What would we do? What would be your way to start? You can always pass, but do you have any ideas? Are you passing? Oh, okay. Next up would be the class card. Alana. What's your strategy here? What do we do? Yeah, so some people like have some algebra tiles with you right now, or the positive, negative, like the plus minuses. If I have 100 negatives on my desk, which would be a lot to get out, can I take away 98 of the negatives?
Yes.
Yeah, I can. Excuse me, I can do this actually. Or if I want to rewrite it as addition, it rewrites like that. Either way, though, now I can think of it as a battle, right? Good guys, bad guys. Either way, We're going to get negative 2 here. If we start with 100 negatives, take away 98 of the negatives, we would still have left 2 of them. Does that make sense? If we're talking realistically here, we can actually do this, quote unquote. If we talk finances again, I have a debt of $100. I want to remove 98 of my debt. I still have a debt of $2. Right? Another way to talk about it. I have a debt of 100. I remove 98 of the debt, which is negative, which means I have to take money to the bank and add it into my account. I'm still at a negative 2. I know. Should not have bought that entire candy store.
That would not be $100.
You don't know how big the candy store is.
It's $100,000.
If you haven't done E, please write it down. This one's tough. If you haven't done E, please write it down. Yes.
Couldn't you make it negative 10 minus negative 6, but put it
So that is a brilliant question. So we're going to come back to that in a second. I think we're missing. Nathan, do you have any other way to look at this? And don't repeat what Ava said. Or when you look at this, kind of what's your brain do with it? What do we start with? Now, what's the first number? What do we start with? 10 negatives, right? So if I start here, I have 10 negatives. What does this tell me to do? Ooh, I could make it add 2. Or it tells me like take away 2 of the negatives, right? So take away 2 of the negatives. What does this tell me to do? Take away 2 of the negatives. What does this tell me to do? So I just did the same thing 3 times. Is there a more efficient way to write something that we do 3 times, Isaac? What do you mean?
add all those 2, then do negative 10 plus 6.
I agree with you. You're not wrong at all. But there's a word that I keep kind of using. Viva? We are doing this same thing 3 times. Riley?
I don't remember what it's called, but it's like that one number of
Ooh, that's powers. We're not there yet. That would be if we multiply multiple times. Ava? Multiply! We do the same thing 3 times. Now, Nathan already told me what this is really doing, take away 2 negatives, is adding 2. Hey, with me. What we're really doing is negative 10 plus 2 3 times. Or you could write it negative 10 minus negative 2, that parenthesis, 3 times. That would work also, because your multiplication has to happen first. So if you write it like this, it's a bit more complicated, but this would happen first, and that gives you a negative 6, and then minus the negative 6, add 6. Right here, we jump right to that. So if we're talking efficiency, negative 10 plus 6. If I have a debt of 10 and I take $6 to the bank, am I out of debt? No. How much debt do I still have? Negative 4.
simple.
So what we're looking for, why E was so important here, what we're looking for is anytime we add or subtract multiple times, hear both words there, multiple times, it's guiding you to turn it into multiplication. So if we look at 52, and I do want you guys to dive into this on your own, and I'm going to try to stay out for a minute. Sorry, I mean 53. We're going to skip over that because of time constraints. Well, I just wish I had an hour to teach you guys. That would be much better.
Actually, I actually would rather have an hour.
So, I want you and your group to talk about 54. I'm actually going to give you a tighter time limit on this. Probably 2 minutes. You don't have to write anything. I mean, you can write this on your paper if you want. But I just want you guys to talk. How would you describe -7 times -11? So, evaluate here, this word. This is just a fancy word for solve it, simplify. Evaluate means like figure out what the value is. But how do we talk about that and what are we going to get? And obviously you could grab a calculator and figure this out, but like why? How could you describe this? I'll give you 2 minutes. Figure this out. You were going to talk about this. How do you describe that?
Then explain why negative sisters, not positive sisters.
I got a disc bag and I already think it's too small. Do you have a disc bag? Let's try it lunch. I'm either gonna hang on to it for no reason, like my wife's hungry when we go, or I'm gonna try myself. I paid $25 for it, so if you're interested. What do we think? A negative times a negative? Guys, it'll help your brain if you give some separation to your notes. Maybe box out the problem we just finished so that you're ready to describe this. You have about 30 seconds left. How do you describe a negative times a negative?
Oh my gosh. It's like
No, but we are going to talk about it, and it's complicated.
it's like
I got coffee.
I got this call from Aiden. You have a ride. Oh yeah, that's my Uber. I can't do that. Not trying to go home. And yet, he used his mom's credit card to pay for it. He was like, his mom got, she didn't even get mad. She's like,
All right. Natalie, I'm just going by cards. Do you have a way to describe a negative times a negative?
Like in a medical sense?
Sure, whatever you're thinking.
Okay, so say me and Mr. Hudson had a bet
Okay,
of $7,
okay.
and I lost 11 times. Or
So-
wait, no. Wait. Okay, that's
That could work. So Natalie and I, let's say we're flipping a coin. And what she doesn't know is I'm a professional coin flipper. And I bet her $7. We don't know why, but we chose $7. And that's our bet. So we play once, flip, she loses, she owes me $7. But every time she loses, she's like, wait, let's go one more time. One more. I'm going to win this. One more. So we go again, and she loses again. We go again, she loses again. But if you just talk about losing $7 11 times, wouldn't that be negative 77? Like, wouldn't you owe me 77? This isn't 11 times that happened moving forward. This is like 11 times backwards. So if Natalie, after losing 11 times, trying to think of a movie or something, Hot Tub Time Machine. So Natalie says, look, I owe Mr. Hudson $77. This sucks. I'm going to go back in time to erase this debt, right? So Natalie had lost $7 11 times, but now she goes back in time, right? Negative 11. What's a negative 7 times a negative 11?
77.
Positive 77, right? She goes back in time and gets that $77 back that she had lost me. She goes all the way back to the beginning of our coin flip bet, she'll regain all that $77. Now that doesn't mean she comes out $77 up. Just means she gets back everything she would have lost. So, guys, a negative times a negative is very hard to think about. It is something undoing, or something going backwards in time, or something going the reverse direction that you're trying to travel. You ever like take off from home and you know where you're supposed to go and your parents are driving the wrong way? And you're like, where are we going? Like, that's, yeah, think about negatives as like working against what you want, or the positive. So that's very hard to think about. All right, I want you guys to work through these 6 and write out the originals and then the new value. So all of these are multiplication, but then I'm going to call on random people with cards. Right, Kevin? Right? You have no idea what I just said. Gentlemen, if you can't control yourselves, we're going to have to do it for you, and that's really immature. So I'm talking to both of you because it takes 2 to tango, right? He's not talking to himself back there. So work through these 6 problems, but I need you somehow to be able to describe it. Describe it with like the number tiles that you have, the positive negatives. Describe it with a story, like going to the bank or losing a bet to somebody. Like, how would we describe those situations realistically?
Do you want us to write the answer also?
Yes, write the original and the answer. And either you can talk through, or you can write out, or you can draw a picture, like, so that you're ready for when I call on you. Because I'm not going to make this like an easy pass. Like, you just try to immediately pass. I'm going to push to ask you a couple questions. How do we describe those situations? And just what results do we get? They're all similar problems to each other.
They're all the same. They just have -.
Well, then they're not all the same if they just have. My ringtone, but I'm trying to get these trees taken down, and I wonder if that's these people.
I'm going to eat a bunch of raw eggs.
You won't necessarily get sick.
That's true. I'm actually.
But your conversation is way off topic for the math. These are not all the same. They're all similar. At the end of the day, I'm going to ask you if you still have this. Now, why are we not taking the notes that I keep asking you, saying over and over again, write the original. Write the original problem. Why are you not doing it? Choice. You're deciding. Even though he's saying write the original problem. Screw that, I'm not doing it. Right? That's the choice. So you owe me a break. Okay, I'm tired of getting ignored by 7th graders who think they know better. So your choice is you just wait and watch. Write the original problems. Then we solve them. So right now, write down all 6 of them. This is not funny. We're a quarter 2 now.
Oh, this is too much writing. It's going to hurt my brain.
Are we sure?
Not because I've had to look at
100%? Ivan, for my first one here, 4 times negative 3. Tell me how you would describe it, what picture you would give it, like what would you do? How do you think about it? What, like, you mean whatever your brain processes? Squirmy. What, like, are you gonna help me out or are you gonna pass? Do you need some help? Ivan, you realize I'm talking with you, yes? Okay. How does your brain process this question? What do you see? How do you read it? Do you have to draw a picture for it? Like, give me anything. Or say the word pass. So, Ivan, because I told you guys I'm not going to let this be an easy pass. When we talk about multiplication is effectively saying you've got this multiple times. So if we just start to read what this says, how do I read this? 4 times negative 3. That means you have 4 times, 4 sets, 4 groups, 4 whatever, of negative 3. So negative 3, negative 3, negative 3, negative 3. 4 times negative 3. What do we end up getting? Negative 12. So in the first one there, if we talk about 4 times negative 3, it's like 4 groups of, right? But the second one gets more difficult. Riley, what do you think about the second one there?
Okay, so what I know is when multiplying a negative by a negative, you get a positive. So it's equal to 4 times 3.
It is equal to 4 times 3. Now, if we try to rationalize this as like a situation, maybe I take away 4 debts of $3 or 4 multiples of debts of 3, or however like I can think of this. To take away a debt, what do I need?
Money.
I need like positive money, right? And that's why this ends up just being like positive times positive. I would need $12 in order to take away 4 debts of $3.
Technically, you need money. You don't
That's what this is. This is positive now. So if I go to the bank with $12, positive $12, and I had 4 different times charged $3. Maybe Monday through Thursday I buy lunch, $3, $3. And I want to take that away, right? Remove it. I need a positive $12. That is one way we can think about it. Hey, Sophia, 7th grade behavior. Right, we're not making helicopters. Might maybe be a lesson later in the year, but not right now. Brody, what about the third one there?
My thing was sometimes my brother and I play bets on our games. So we bet minifigures.
Okay.
So yeah, I bet like 4 and he bet 4.
So your bet of 4,
We played 3 times and I owed 12.
you played 3 times, and whoever lost then owed the other 12, if you lost all 3 times, right? So we made a bet negative, or I lost a bet of 4 3 different times. I totally lost 12. Layla, we can speed up here if you want to just help me with just giving me the answer. What would 2 times negative 7 be?
Okay. I get nervous.
So do we all.
Can I
not want to.
You guys didn't, in like the 5 minutes I gave you guys, we didn't.
I got confused on the first one because my brain was.
Just stick up a hand and ask for help.
Ask my teacher.
Guys, we gotta fix some of our student behaviors here. We are heading into quarter 2, and like later, you'll believe me, but all expectations of you ramp up. You're gonna have more homework in other classes. Math pretty much stays the same because you've had homework all year. But like, you gotta get it together. Okay, if you need help, you have to ask for help. If you have a progressing and you can't fix it, you gotta ask for help. You don't know how to do the homework, you gotta go get help. Like, you gotta advocate for yourself. We don't just spoon feed it to you like in elementary, like, oh, here's everything you need, and then regurgitate it for the test. Like, no. That regurgitate. Like, so here, put this in, then bring it back. Like, memorize this. Now spit it back for the test. Like, no, that's not how we do things.
We're not penguins anymore.
Sure. So, Layla, let's start easy. Yeah, so if you want to start easy, on that same sentiment of it's 7th grade quarter 2, you should not be talking at inappropriate times. So Layla, if we started with just 2 times 7, forget about the signs. 2 times 7, you know, is 14, and then we have one of the negatives, so we get negative 14. Now, different than that, when I come over to the second one, I'm just going to stick with you, Layla, actually. What do I get here?
So 2 negatives make a positive.
Yeah.
Just 14.
So I could also think momentarily, forget about the signs. 2 times 7 is 14. And what's the opposite of a negative? Positive. That's why 2 negatives make a positive, because the opposite of a negative is positive. And then, class, what's our final answer here? Negative 14. So I only have one of those negatives. Ava?
Okay, so if you're doing this in this second box, whichever is second box, but when you're doing it, if you have 2 positives, can you make a negative?
No. So I'd be like, I give you $5 10 times, and now you owe me $50. Like, that wouldn't make sense. Like, but you, like, if I'm just giving you, not that you lost in a bet or whatever, like, if I'm giving you $5, you gain $5, right? Positive. If it happens 10 times, positive 10, you now have $50, right? Of money. You don't owe me anything if I just straight up gave it to you. No bets, no loans. Now, conversely, if I make it debt to you that you're borrowing, that you're actually going into debt, then that's different. But no, 2 positives cannot make a negative.
I love that.
What do you mean, word?
When I say the worst you're going into
Conversely, like opposite, different from. So, con, what con mean?
Oh, con means together.
Well, it can also mean,
when I hear the word words you're going into
Con artist. That's what I.
can also mean against, right? Man, did we go talk about Marcy? I don't know if we need to really. Yes. It was good. Right now, we need to stay on task. I appreciate the question, though. You're good. I'm going to show you guys something that you can write down or not, but I'm going to give you a tiny mental break. So check this out. All I need is you to like pay attention up here for a minute. Marcy, actually, I think I might just drag this down. Marcy was wondering why. Guys, really? I need to see you after class really quick. You know why I write pencils. So, Marcy was wondering, why is it that when we multiply by 0, we get 0? So, a friend wrote out this proof, said, okay, we know this, right? That's what we know, quote unquote, but why? So 0 could really be represented by any number added with its opposite. Right, so a negative 1 and a positive 1 wipe each other out when they add, and they are 0. So then, and this is the distributive property, which we're going to do more and more with here in quarter 2 and 3. Negative 1 times 1 makes, well, what's negative 1 times negative 1? Negative times a negative? Positive 1. Negative 1 times positive 1, so they write that out here, just makes the negative 1. Well, what's 1 plus negative 1? 0. So this, and this will matter a lot more in Math 1 and Math 2, this is the beginning of you understanding how to mathematically prove something is true. We start with a statement of, okay, here's what we're trying to prove. This should be right according to math. How can I break it apart and explain why it is right? And this works out because the math all works. Everything we've done follows the rules. So just like with our multiplication, let's look at these divisions real quick. They use the same rules. So if I have $45 and I divide it out into 3 losses, right, negatives, or 3 debts, or 3, like whatever you want to think about, the rules work the same with positive and negatives. Try these out. I'll give you like 2 minutes because we're almost out of time. So write out the originals and then the solution. If you want to, you can take it for a moment and forget about the signs. Just do the math, then bring the signs back in. You could set it up stacked. You could make your division look like this. Because that's another way to write that. So write the original, and then whatever makes it easier, and then solve it. Your notes are really tight. Make sure you leave yourself some space so you can see what's going on. It's okay if you're good, I'm just saying. We got plenty of graph paper. Rock, I don't trust germs. Not high five. High fives are germs. Guys, we should all be writing down these original problems. Even if you don't exactly know how to solve them, you should all be writing these out. How many negatives are involved in the problem? One, right? So division works just like multiplication, like it is negative, because there's only one of them. You would need a pair of negatives to cancel out and make positives. So since you only have one negative, it stays negative.
Oh, but then it wouldn't be. Never mind.
Huh? So why are you just sitting there flipping the book back and forth? That doesn't make any sense. What are you confused about? So forget about the negative for a minute. Can you do 45 divided by 3? Yeah. So then, you can, from the rules you know from multiplication, if we have one negative involved, is my answer going to be negative or positive? So that's, if you just want to make it easy and not try to make a real situation like banks or anything like that, you can just apply the rules. Really quickly, because we are out of time, A should have become negative 15 because we have one negative involved. B, how many negatives do we have involved in B? 2. What's my answer become? 4. And in C, how many negatives involved? 1. So my answer becomes negative 9. Once you have those down, you are good to go. I will warn you guys. That based off some of your peers, I'm starting to think we might need to do notes checks. I haven't checked notes all of quarter 1. But if you see your teammates not doing what they need to do, get them on their game, or we're gonna need to start checking notes. Casey, binder, pencils. So you owe me your break today. Okay, so you can get pencils in your binder. Excuse me. Yeah. Dude, yes, and I love that you're still thinking about that, but I've still not actually been to the store. I finally got my trees cut down, so hopefully we go to the grocery tonight. But honestly, we've been ordering pizza or getting Subway, or we just need to go to the grocery store.